Well, we've seen a couple things over the last few weeks, specifically kind of coming out of that Speaker's ruling and the Mark Warwa situation. We've had an unvetted question, or an unvetted statement made in the House. We've had Mark Warwa finally stand up and give his statement on gendercide. So we've seen kind of these little incremental gains and these little incremental moments that may matter in the long run. But really, I think now you kind of need to look further and see where this is going to go in terms of real substantive change to the way Parliament works, in terms of the scrutiny, in terms of the accountability, in terms of how Parliament works. And that, I think, is sort of the challenge for these MPs. So they've won this small gain. They've gotten a bit more freedom. But what are they going to do with it? And are they going to make substantive changes to Parliament and the way things work in the process? You know, we saw Pierre Poilievre stand up in the House this week, and in terms of defending the budget bill and specifically the collective bargaining aspects of that budget bill, talk about, you know, Parliament as the defender of the public purse. It's a fantastic idea and a great principle, and now we need to see MPs sort of actually start to pursue that more.
Auditor General Michael Ferguson put out a spring report not too long ago. Several chapters in the report, and as usual, he made certain demands of the government. He had questions for the government, but where money went, various departments, search and rescue was one example, and that got airtime in House of Commons, but one that has continued to show that it has very long legs. One thing that Michael Ferguson talked about was $3.1 billion over 9 years that was supposed to go to anti-terror funding, but can't be accounted for. He didn't say there was anything improper happening, he just can't find it. He couldn't find it when he and his team of auditors went looking for it. So that has the government on its on its heels a bit, and it has NDP leader Tom Mulcair feeling fairly loose, looking fairly loose during question period. And so he gets up the other day and he made a reference to Arrested Development, which is a cult classic that a lot of people watching this might know about, a lot of people might not. I knew about it. I chuckled when he made that reference because I thought it was funny. Even if you haven't heard of Arrested Development, and it's kind of like this kooky show, well, it doesn't matter because it's this funny little reference. He said, "Where's the money? Is it in the banana stand?" And that's funny to those of us who've seen the show, and just kind of like off the wall for those of us who haven't. So to make that kind of a reference just kind of demonstrates how confident he is on this particular file. Yesterday, on an unrelated file, the Liberals looked pretty good in question period as well. Joyce Murray, who's not exactly the most confident performer in the House of Commons and during question period, was referencing the government's $2 million odd spending on tracking their own MPs' statements in the media. They were media monitoring and paying quite a sum of money for that. And Murray got up during question period and made a crack about how the government could do it for free by just using Google alerts. And that's something that of course, if you're familiar at all with Google, and Google alerts made you chuckle. And if not, it was still kind of a throwaway line that's not going to do her any harm. And at most, it's just going to be a throwaway. So the opposition's feeling good these days. The government's kind of back on its heels in question period, and they're going to have to come up with some way to change the channel.
Well, the government says it's cracking down. There were some measures in this area in the budget. Notably, they announced that they were going to have a reward system for people who come forward and tip the government off about international tax avoidance as long as the investigation leads to some tax being recovered. But this week brought some embarrassment on this file because the Americans, the Australians, and the Brits announced that they were sort of joining forces to do a major investigation of offshore tax avoidance from their jurisdictions. That left the Canadian Revenue Minister, Gail Shea, scrambling to say that while she was asking those countries for information, she expected cooperation. Canada was taking this seriously too. But really the question floats out there. If Canada is so serious on this file, if we're being aggressive, why are those three other countries the ones that are combining their resources to go after this on an international footing? One way or another, the Canadian government needs to get its message together on this, and they probably have about a month to do that. That's because next month in Northern Ireland, the G8 will be meeting, and the Brits, as the hosts, have made international tax evasion a sort of focal point for the meeting. So Prime Minister Stephen Harper, to a lesser degree, Finance Minister Jim Flaherty, will want to have something good, something persuasive to say about Canada's efforts on this file by that time.